Stick to football, Andy. You're not a hockey guy. What kind of guy are you? What kind of obscure markets are your niche? Were you out there last night betting on if Lieutenant Dan was going to survive the hurricane down in Tampa? I think that was a joke, but who knows? You may have been able to bet on that. And it makes me think we are real close to a Black Mirror type of society. You ever see that episode of Black Mirror where Yelp is taken to the nth degree and people have their human credit scores? You're like cashing out at McDonald's. It's like, all right, man, see you later. And the fact that you weren't all in a good mood and cheery, the guy rates you 2 out of 5 stars and you're walking around with 2 out of 5 stars that people just see. How many stars would you have? I already know you don't have a car, but now you don't have any stars. So we got NFL Thursday Night Football. We got NHL, a couple games on our hands, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's go to the NFL first. The most popular sport. It gets higher ratings, and I know I'm coming off that clean sweep. It was a massive week. 4 out of 5 weeks we're winning, and now we're going to try to make it 5 out of 6 weeks, and that starts tonight. Thursday Night Football between the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. There isn't a ton that I like for this game, so I'm just going to give you the meat and potatoes, my quick deli order. No, I'm not going to get those obscure hot honey ham. It's just going to be the salami, the turkey, the cheese. Wrap it up and get me out of here. 2 straight days talking about delis. Well, let me tell you what's on my deli order. We obviously know how awful this defense has been for Seattle. Some of it is due to injuries, but you had Jared Goff break a record, even though Dan Campbell didn't know, went 18 for 18, no incompletions. The Giants went in there and ran all over them. So this is a team that's very liable in the back end. And if you've been watching the Niners, they've been dealing with a myriad of issues. Debo missed a couple games. They obviously have the McCaffrey thing. Kittle missed some time. But now they're all on the field. And more importantly, you have Brandon Aiyuk, who skipped all of training camp. And usually, I mean, we see this every year. You skip all of training camp, with some exceptions, and you need to kind of have that training camp in the first stretch of the season. That's what we saw with Brandon Aiyuk. We saw his breakout performance last week. Now that they're on the same page and they're going up against this defense, I told you last week, I love the 50s. I can afford the 50s, but every once in a while you can splurge and you can head into the 60s. Especially, you can splurge after a perfect Monday. We can afford those 60s. So give me the over 64.5 receiving yards for Brandon Aiyuk. You know, now that we're a little deeper into the season and we have some stats that we can go on, we can see, 4 straight weeks, this guy has done this. So I use Outlier to point things out to me, something I really wouldn't have thought about. I knew I was looking for Brock Purdy props in this game, and there were 2 that I thought off the top of my head. Well, if Jared Goff is going 18 for 18, then I'm going to take Brock Purdy with all these weapons. He's having a great year. He actually looks way better this year than last year when people were considering him for MVP. Purdy's been playing great. The Seattle defense is playing awful. I'm going with the over 1.5 touchdowns for Brock Purdy. And then the second one is under half of an interception. Purdy's going to be my Kareem Hunt this time around. It was all Kareem Hunt. And this time, just like with Travis Kelce, we have Aiyuk. And then I'm going Purdy's across the board. The over 1.5 touchdowns, the under half of an interception. And then the one that Outlier pointed to me that I wouldn't have really thought of. Like, oh yeah, I was thinking of you. Passing and rushing yards combined, which I saw on Fanduel. And he's hit this 4 weeks in a row. Other than that opening game against the Jets' tough defense. Passing plus rushing. Give me the over on that. And then we'll just cook up a little same game parlay. We hit the same game parlay. We hit that Pirate Parlay. Let's see if we can do it again. Give me the alt rushing and passing for Brock Purdy. The over on his touchdowns, and then the alt over on Brandon Aiyuk's receiving. That's what I have for my NFL bets. Now, strap up those skates, lace them up, tape that stick, head onto the ice. It's going to be a full Thursday of trickle-down snakeonomics from top to bottom. I see many many opportunities. And as far as yesterday goes, yeah, there are going to be a lot of those in the beginning of the year. I'd say it every year, and then everybody acts re-surprised that the beginning of the year is very wonky.
My car!
However, whether it's October, September, August, doesn't matter. Preseason game, even though I'll never bet those, trickle-down snakeonomics is the way to go, and the beginning of the season is offering prices that are just unbelievable. Do you remember last year when Miro Heiskanen, he came back from an injury? I'm like, look, we're getting a post-injury price. He is a top power play defenseman. There's no reason this should be around minus 120. We were thrilled for minus 120. Look around the NHL tonight. You see so many top power play defensemen who are listed at plus money for a point. That's an incredible value. Trust me when I tell you. There isn't a defenseman in this league whose point prop isn't worth a sniff if it's in that plus money. And I'm sorry, but the power play doesn't even have to be that decent. It's just such an increased advantage of putting up a point. So I'll start with two guys who are involved in games where these are both major upset alerts. This is scam October hockey. Don't just pencil in, this team, that's going to be a win. And that first one I'm talking about is the Florida Panthers going to Ottawa for their home opener. Ottawa has a team, a lot of offensive skill. You have a certain amount of mail-ins. This was something I forgot to talk about in the opening episode. Every single team from top to bottom in the NHL, they have about 5 to 12, depending on their coaching staff and philosophy, full mail-ins. Like last night, that was a Pittsburgh mail-in. Yeah, you could say, that they suck there, but they truly just weren't. It looked like their speed burst button was broken. They were lollygagging. There was no sense of urgency. They were just floating around out there. Who cares? We're down 2-0, 3-0.
We know you aren't there, and you are all alone.
And you never really know when it's going to come, and it always is worrisome in the beginning of the year. So you Florida money line bettors, just halt the brakes. How about Toronto? That high-scoring offense, grand total of 0 goals. I wasn't thrilled about that. Lost a couple tree bets on those. I'm looking at the Ottawa Senators. Their power play one defenseman, a guy who's going to be out there in all offensive situations. His point should start with minus, but it starts with plus. Give me Jake Sanderson for a point in this game against the Florida Panthers. I understand. You think I don't know that the Florida Panthers defense is incredible? How incredible is it? Yeah, in the playoffs, you're not going to get much on them. How about in the regular season? Here's a couple goals in the third, 6-4 late in the third. Regular season is completely different. How'd that Vancouver game look last night? Yes, I am upset that I didn't know that one was going to be ruckus filled. I was a little bit worried because, just like most people, you have those lasting images in your head of Winnipeg getting the train run on them, and then Vancouver not being able to generate a single thing. But introduce scam hockey into the fold. Here we go. And by the way, Winnipeg is in my scam 5. You couldn't get more of a scam team that can probably do well based on the regular season and is never doing anything in the playoffs. You saw 2 straight years. Here comes number 3. Anyway, I like the over half of a point for Jake Sanderson, who's the top power play defenseman and is just getting a little bit better every year. Then a guy you're probably going to snarl at. I talked about him in those scam games. I made a YouTube short saying, I don't care. You take it. That's the right thing. I looked, I saw, I conquered. Even though I didn't conquer at all, I lost. But I'm going right back to it. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's Rasmus Dahlin in a home game. And they're another team. You think, oh my God, they couldn't look worse. Watch their home opener, upset alert. They were the worst team you ever seen in your life. Buffalo fans already aren't going to the games. And game 1 hasn't even started yet on their own home ice. But Rasmus Dahlin plus money point, those are 2 great values on defensemen who are running both of their power plays. And let's go to San Jose, which you will always have a chance that these games are 6-4, kind of like that Flames game last night, or it's just like, all right, nobody's even moving out here. These can go either way, but there should be some excitement with Celebrini. They have a couple new players. We'll see, but it doesn't even matter. All you need to know is the power play defenseman for the St. Louis Blues is Justin Faulk. Justin Faulk's point is at plus 125. You saw last game. Did he look great? Did you notice Justin Faulk? I don't know if you noticed him. He just got a long, free power play point, and that's what we're just looking for, a point. Every single power play that takes the ice for the St. Louis Blues against the worst team in the NHL, you're getting the defenseman. The defenseman for the power play assist is most likely, and you saw that from, I think Faulk had 2 points. I don't give a Faulk if you don't know who he is or you don't like him. Plus 125 for the PP1 defenseman against the worst team in the league. Yeah, that's Justin Faulk. 3 of them. 3 of them right there. Do you want another one? Do you want a 4th power play defense? All right, I won't, but I will use it. Let's go to Long Island. Let's go visit those New York Islanders. And we have plenty of trickle-down snakeonomics to apply in this one. You know that Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat, they were the top line, but they were missing a winger. They didn't really have a winger that could make that line really excel. But they brought somebody in who has showed unbelievable chemistry with Barzal and Horvat. A guy who will be on that top power play with them. And plus money point. You thought Hayton was good, and Hayton's actually in this game. Anthony Duclaire. Do you remember at the end of last season? They stuck him on there with Point and Kucherov. He was just raking up points every single game. But the fact we're getting him on this top line in a game where the Isles are favored, they were destroyed. Like, if you look up the preseason stats, that line on the score sheet, almost every single game they played during the preseason. So a plus money point for Anthony Duclaire is a great bet, along with the over 2.5 shots for Noah Dobson. I feel like some of these numbers and prices stem from where it ended. When Noah Dobson ended the season, he wasn't on the top power play because he had returned from injury. The Isles power play was doing well with Mike Riley on the point, so they kept Riley there in the playoffs. Noah Dobson wasn't really raking up shots like he typically did earlier in the season when he was the defenseman on the power play, so that brought his shot total down. It was even down to like 1.5 in that playoff series versus the Hurricanes, but now he's back like Ra's al Ghul to finish the job. And this time, no misguided idealists will get in the way. So I will take the over 2.5 shots on goal forever. This is a guy who shoots a lot when he gets the opportunity. On the power play, he really tries to get shots through the net anytime he gets a clean look. So the over 2.5 shots on goal. Trickle down snakeonomics. It works both ways. Josh talked about this on the intro to the season show. He said, if there's somebody going up, it also means somebody is going down. And just know, I run tests kind of like with medicines and whatnot. Like, I run it on the test subjects. And with that, I was going to say Coyotes, with that Utah Hockey Club game the other night, Alexander Kerfoot was listed on the 4th line. And you guys know this from last year. Anytime you see a player listed for a point who's on the 4th line, you take it. Every single time. It's a mistake if you see that. Don't say anything. Don't tell anybody. If you see a player on the 4th line, you always take his under. They don't play as much as the top 3 lines. They get like 12 minutes per game, and you mathematically shouldn't be allowed to take that. The reason the 4th liners are not available for point props anywhere, for the most part, there's like some one random obscure sportsbook in Canada that lets you do it. But the reason they're not there is because they don't play a lot, and it's a liability for the sportsbook. So if you see somebody drop down, and I took his under, I made sure he was on that 4th line, and he was. So I'm adding him. Now, he was minus 150 last game. Trust me when I tell you, for a 4th liner, you start whistling Dixie if you ever see that. I'm also going to add him to the Noah Dobson shots on goal, and that gives us a fantastic price. Like, I think that's going to happen. That right there, I think is going to happen. So give me that 2-game parlay for you. And lastly, in a classic case of Toronto Maple Leafs, they underperformed when everybody probably expected them to do well. Now everyone's going to close the book on them, say, oh my God, backup goalies is a disaster, and they're going to go into New Jersey. And I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think some of those players, after being shut out, are primed for solid nights. So I'm going to go with over 1.5 points for Austin Matthews, and I'll pick this one for a little bit of ruckus. These are 2. I'm just worried with Toronto's new coach that he's forcing them to play a different style. We'll obviously see that was just 1 game, But let's try it because I know those roller hockey devils are always down to exchange scoring chances. Give me 2 points for Jesper Bratt and 2 points for William Nylander, and then give me 2 points for Morgan Riley and 2 points for Jack Hughes.
Hockey, baby.
And that is what I have for you here on a pretty loaded Thursday. So once you cash your Lieutenant Dan bets out, wow, of all the bets, I didn't put 2 and 2 together till right now. There's a Lieutenant Dan bet. Is that a sign? Are they trying to tell us tonight is the night of the Dans? It's never a time for the Dans. You never had your car. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow for some Friday NHL Sniffs. Make sure you are subscribed here. I will update the picks, put out more stuff on the Patreon when I get a better chance to look at all the prices and any sort of lineup changes like today. I mean, I thought that the backup goalie going in for Toronto would create a little more ruckus in that game. Guess not. So sometimes, it works in both ways. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. I'll talk to you then.